The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple, and welcome to our market update, analyzing potential opportunities in the Nadex markets. Very interesting week. I got to say, this has been kind of a craziness. I don't know if anybody saw it this morning. We now have three types of markets officially. I don't know if anybody saw it out there or not, but we have a bull market, a bear market, and then the news media outlets have now coined the kangaroo market. So pretty exciting. We can say that you guys were here for the birth of the kangaroo market, which is pretty interesting because, yes, the markets have been bouncing left, right, up, down, sideways, and all of the other directions that we could possibly come up to. So great week. Very excited to be here with you. Let's just dive right in, make sure that we, again, can get through all of it today because we got a lot to talk about. First things first, let's go through and let me tell you who I am. For those of you that are brand new, welcome. Glad to have you guys out. I'm the president and CEO of Keep Trading Simple. What I tend to do is I try to remove a lot of the distractions from the market, really break things down to the basics, kind of the fundamentals, and kind of really dive into what we need to focus on. I'm a price action trader. What that means is I use candles and the formation of candles, not so much candlestick patterns, but I'm looking at where buyers and sellers typically are. My charts will look different if you guys are accustomed to 8 million indicators. That is not me. I'm not that guy. But what I will do is I typically will look at the formations, use supply and demand to kind of control my trading. Okay. I've been trading since about 2000, really about the tech bubble, right? I live actually in the DC area. So the tech bubble was something that was very near and dear here. My father worked for IBM at the time. And so I've seen markets boom. I've seen markets bust. I've seen them go sideways and do absolutely nothing. Seen crises, real estate bubbles, things like Brexit. So been able to kind of weather the storm throughout this time frame, and created a number of different strategies. I'm a very big on kind of strategy creation, analysis of strategies, figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and where the downfalls are. I'm a big believer in a system that you have should work at all times, not just during specific trending markets. So again, love to chat about that thing. If you guys ever have any questions about that, love to talk to you guys offline about it. I did spend some time inside of one of the advisory divisions of one of the big three banks. So I took the path that most people did, became, obviously was a retail trader, was not born into a family that had traders in it. I was kind of the trailblazer in my family for that, for lack of a better word. Didn't have YouTube when I started, so I got a lot of books, read this person, went to seminars, kind of learned everything what not to do, and then finally gained my own kind of understanding of the markets and kind of, broaden my horizons. Started with traditional options, traded the stock market, found currencies, fell in love with that, understand how to trade futures. Stumbled upon binaries a few years ago and absolutely love it. It's a perfect complement for me for the way that I trade. Being on the inside, I saw what the big kind of these, the big firms out there are telling you that you need to do, and realize that they don't necessarily have any idea what they're talking about either. So pretty interesting. I really feel that you guys should be able to do everything by yourself. And my goal is to really empower you. So hopefully today, you guys are able to get at least one golden nugget out of our presentation, something that you saw that says whether aha or I didn't know that before. And again, you can take it with you after today. So every single week, I'm hoping you guys learn something new in this process. All right. So that's who I am. Let's dive into the disclaimer for today. Trading on Nadex involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors. Trading can be volatile. Investors risk losing their cost at the end of the transaction, including fees. The information presented within this presentation is for informational and education purposes only, and should not be considered an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument on Nadex or elsewhere. Any trading decisions that you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. I will talk about different potential setups that I am looking at. If you take them, they are solely on you. I don't want any emails that you said this. Again, this is my analysis and what my opinion is. It doesn't mean that I necessarily am right, but it's what I believe in. All right, just again, keep that under consideration. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results, and Nadex contracts are based on underlying asset classes, including Forex, stock index futures, and commodity futures. We will actually cover them today. We'll cover the big three as far as index futures go. And then as far as commodities go, I'm going to do gold, oil, and silver. Okay, if there's any additional commodities that you would like to see, go ahead and type them in chat, and I'll see if I can include them in future broadcasts. Nadex is a registered trademark of the IG group. All right, so let's dive into it. First things first, I always like to start off on what are the upcoming news events. I am, I guess, self-proclaimed. I absolutely love news trading, okay? Today's been a great morning. We had great retail sales, and I'll show that in 1 second. And then Powell stepped in and literally dropped what I would call the Powell power bomb, right? He definitely made the markets move and made a very interesting statement. Very interesting statement. A couple of them, actually. It's been like boom, 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 like Twitter comments. So I'm going to make sure we cover those, but also what's going to happen throughout the week. He's actually speaking 2 more times this week, which is setting up some absolutely amazing trading opportunities. All right. Absolutely love news trading without a doubt. Then we'll dive into indices. We'll cover where we kind of see them. Again, that's where the kangaroo market is coming from. Some interesting places that we are right now with the 3 different, the NASDAQ, the ES, and the Dow. So we'll go ahead and cover those. And then again, I'm going to dive into the Forex market. The Forex market has been quite jumpy. We're a little bit slow right now, but Sunday night, and again, if you guys don't know this, the currency market opens Sunday night. You can start trading it Sunday evening, right? We don't have the NFL, but we do have Sunday night trading in currencies. There was a ton of setups this weekend leading into Monday morning. Okay, we're a little bit slower right now, and I think a lot of this is waiting for Powell to kind of get what he has to say out of the way. But absolutely amazing start of the currency market. So I want to cover that, and then we'll dive into commodities. Okay, oil is in a very interesting place. Last week, based off some of the levels we talked about, it was moving sideways, and like 3 or 4 different trades have been popped out of it, right? With at least 1 to 3 risk to reward ratios. So some good opportunity there. All right, so I want to make sure we dive into those 3. All right. So let's dive right over into the first things first. Let's dive over into what I use for my news sites. All right. So as you guys see, again, Forex Factory is my, I would say, news site of choice. I use a bunch of them. I'll show some charts off Daily FX. I use it, again, obviously for the scanner. Again, when we talk currencies, you guys know that I'm using this to determine what my volatility is. Might change in the last 24 hours. So I can see that things are more or less slow, but I know we've had a lot of movement this morning, right? A lot of movement. Pound had some great strength yesterday when I looked at this on Monday night. Again, this was up, 120 pips. Again, big movers over daily ATRs, if you guys remember my ATR discussion. So those, again, great movement. Thus far today, one of the things that I brought up last night was this claimant count with the pound. Now, the pound was soaring yesterday. Today, not so much, right? Up a little bit. This claimant count is their unemployment number. So there were some trades early this morning that you could have taken advantage of. This morning, retail sales. Again, you may not understand the difference between core and regular retail. It doesn't matter. Understand the market expected a specific result, and we blew it out of the water, over double the amount, over double the percentage of retail sales. My joke last night was, hey, listen, they're saying that our core is supposed to be up 5.5%. Last time, month over month, we were down 15.2, right? My big joke was, has everybody used all the toilet paper that they bought? Because remember, they bought Sam's Club 60 rolls. Have they used it? If they have, this number will go up. And obviously, it looks like we have at this point, right? But then again, Powell coming in, testifying. I'll show you his quotes in just a second. Some amazing stuff there as well. Here's actually one of them, right? First things first, there seems to be plenty of demand for U.S. debt, showing that, hey, listen, there could be a drive towards the dollar. Over here, we talked about, that's certainly not our intention, talking about monetizing the debt here. Where's the other one? There's still going to be a lot of unemployed, particularly in tourism, but our job, and they are focusing on fixing the unemployment situation, okay? Buying is not functioning. Where is it? There's another one down here. Oh, here we go. Reiterating long-term economic recovery, call for fiscal support, but they're not mentioning the word stimulus. If you guys remember what I was mentioning before, stimulus was a big thing, right? Why is stimulus big? Because stimulus is printing money, which will lead to inflation, which is going to jack up gold prices. But the word stimulus, right? Stimulus is also going to jack the stock market. So some really, really cool things there. Powell talking about the federal debt has been an unsustainable path for years now. Okay, great. This is a big one too. Today's retail sales figures are evidence that demand is being supported. Okay, again, the Fed is highly motivated to get the labor market back to where it was before the pandemic. Now, a lot of these things are big statements. I'm sure that the president was extremely excited about this one, right? Because again, if you can get the market back before election time, that obviously is a big perk, right? So again, a lot of news, right, coming out of this Powell speech today, and he speaks 2 more times this week, right? So looking further, what do we have tomorrow? Tomorrow we have some Canadian data on inflation, which could be a nice mover. So if you guys are up before news, again, that's where you can jump into that data. Then 12 o'clock tomorrow, again, remember too, we have that 10:30 oil inventory report. So we have some oil news tomorrow morning. But then, bam, Powell's coming back in again tomorrow hot. And again, he's testifying. And why testifying is important is because, again, he's in front of the House Financial Services Committee. He will be answering questions from the House. Do politicians ever ask pointed questions to support their cause? Yes. Okay, the answer is yes. Okay. So we could get some interesting unscripted data coming out of Powell tomorrow because he doesn't know what they're going to say ahead of time. They're supposed to kind of give him an idea, but again, this could bring some pops tomorrow, which could be pretty fun. Then tomorrow night, Aussie unemployment data, right? Okay. We're going to see that could be pretty interesting as well. And again, if you guys are not trading currencies, do it at night with the Aussie. Great setups. There's some great binary setups and great setup options for that one at night. So that's going to be fun. Then we go into the Swiss. The dollar Swiss has been pretty interesting. There's been some great setups. There was an absolutely amazing setup on this one from Sunday night into Monday morning. You're able to get some a nice return on that one. They're going to give us their monetary policy assessment. They're not expecting to change the rates, but anything they say going forward could lead to, again, nice little move in the dollar Swiss. This is a knockout base pair as well. Okay, so we can trade that with knockout. So that's kind of cool early in the morning. Then the pound steps in. And again, you guys know what the pound's going through right now, right? They're talking about Brexit and everything going on with Brexit, which led to absolutely enormous moves before. Brexit is coming up in July. They basically just said there will be no extension. We are leaving. We are out. Again, as we get closer, there's going to be a lot more spiky of a market. That clicks in at 7 a.m., so not too early. And then we have, again, the unemployment claims number. I'm wondering if we're even going to be able to make this 1.3. That should be interesting. And again, talking about the manufacturing index, see if we can get to a positive number here. And then Friday this week, Powell speaking at 1, which could lead the market to kind of whatever Powell says here is going to be where we lead and kind of end the market. We have Canadian data early on, some retail sales, but for the most part, I think the U.S. and most of the market will be focused on what is Powell going to say, okay? Where will the market move? And whatever Powell says, again, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that's where the market will trend for the rest of the day. There is a potential if it's in a negative light, there will be a last-minute kind of rally, what I would call, and a couple of my students call it the feel-good rally, right? Nobody wants to end the week on the absolute bottom, right? You always want to get a little bit of a kick up at the very, very end. So, it could be interesting how that one lays out. But like I said, many different of these news releases this week are going to give us some pretty good pops. Obviously, the biggest one right now on my radar is going to be Powell speaking tomorrow. Again, like I said, unscripted questions from the House, from politics in, kind of an election year. Yeah, you can kind of get some, there can be some some surprises there. So I think that'll be pretty good tomorrow as well. So just, again, keep that on your radar because today, there's definitely a big move, and I'll show you that in the charts. All right, so that is news for the rest of the week. Let me pull this back off again, put it to where I can find it quickly. Okay, all right, so let's go back over and let's pull charts. All right, so remember I said when Powell spoke, there was some movement? Yeah, you guys see this gigantic red candle? Yeah, that was Powell. Okay, that was Powell speaking when he started talking about the U.S. economy. This is a huge move. Okay, this is a 84 pip move. The average ATR in a day, and again, it has been a little bit crazy, but the average ATR move for a day is 120. Okay, in 1 hour, this is 102 on an hourly candle. So yeah, go Powell power. This man, he can move the market, particularly when it has to do with the economy, gold, the dollar, the markets, unemployment, stimulus. All those words are a big hot button. So where we are right now, you can see that we are retracing a little bit in the Aussie dollar. Actually, you know what? Let me start with the markets first. Sorry, I jumped ahead. I was so excited about that one. Here's the NQ based off of what Powell had to say. Okay, whoops. There you go. You guys see the big spike? There's Powell. Okay, so does the man have the potential to move the markets? Absolutely, without a doubt. Okay, same thing, different chart. Where we are now, I had a little bit of a sell here looking off this level, and it kind of pushed to about a 2-to-1 and then rallied back up before he spoke today. So this is one of those kind of break-even trade setups that happen sometimes. Right now, looking at this and saying, hey, listen, where we are right now, we did see a lot of movement. And again, this is Powell-based data. But looking to the left, I don't really see a lot on that time frame. So this is kind of what we're dealing with. And you hear me talk about price action. Let me actually switch this over to white, not green, because I don't want you guys to think we're buying off that level. Okay. This area right here that we're running into, all right, this is an area in the past where price kind of dropped into the area, and we have, and again, this may be your golden nugget for the day, so write this down. You see these wicks, how they're formed here? We have a wick, we have a lower wick, we have a lower wick, we have a lower wick. That is typically indicative of sellers stepping into the market. As the market rallies back up again, it's getting slammed back down again. And you can see price this morning early on, right? Here's where price is right now at noon. Price at about 8 o'clock this morning rallied up into the zone, held it at 9 o'clock, And again, we had core retail sales data. And then that's where everything started to go crazy. And the markets shot to the downside. And then at 11 o'clock, bam, it started rallying back up again. Again, kind of retracing off of what Powell had to say, right? So it's an interesting level. With the retrace not being able to go farther back up, to me, I would say that it kind of looks like it wants to kind of push back to the downside for the rest of the day. Now, again, it's lunchtime. We're kind of seeing slowing down in the market. But what I would do is I would kind of keep this area marked. Now, this price is approximately around 99.88. It's not at the bottom. I'm not marking off the bottom of that zone because I'm using ECN data, so it's slightly off. But that's actually not a bad zone. Again, we saw it push here. We saw it retest. We saw it push down. We saw it get front run. It pushed back up again. It did base. And again, if there were not sellers there, you would not have had a basing movement, right? It took about, 2 hours for it to finally push down before it got slammed. There is an imbalance between buyers and sellers. So my opinion is if we can come back into that area, there may be a potential short up there. See what time. Again, the rest of the afternoon, it may start to slow down. But I would have to say if I have to pick right now, I do believe it's going to continue to push down. But when we do get back up to that zone, I think there is a potential short in that area. Setting up risk to reward to make sure that, again, it's a viable base trade. The 1 to 3 right now, if it starts to turn and just grind back up again, the 1 to 3, which is this line right here, is actually not in a bad spot. I'm okay with that. Even the 1 to 5, the 1 to 5 is a little bit closer. Typically, you want to make sure that you are out before large bumps in price, right? So here would be the target. The reason I'm showing you the 1 to 3, the 1 to 5 is because depending on, again, what your initial risk is, you want to make sure that the trade has enough room to run, okay? And again, especially using call spreads and knockouts, you want to make sure that we have this much, ground to kind of overcome. Binaries, obviously a little bit different with the 1 to 3 because it doesn't need to move as far. But again, knockouts and call spreads, again, you need to make sure that you have this. So that's where we'd be, placing it. Again, you can match this up. I'm using a 30-minute chart for the NQ to kind of come up with that formulation. Going across the S&P. S&P, identical, right? Gigantic spike to the downside between retail sales and Powell speaking. A bit of a retracement, was unable to fully retrace. Now we're inside of a lunchtime hour. It looks like we will continue to push back to the downside. This one kind of has some similar areas. Again, one area, looking to the left at where we hit, this also has that basing level here, okay? Actually, this is probably the entire area. That's probably a better one, kind of sitting a little bit higher. And again, that would be up here around. Again, use your chart. It's this little drop, sideways movement, drop again, and then retest. It's going to be approximately around 3180 is an area that I want to have marked off. Where we based here is also a zone that is not horrible, okay? Looking to the left, again, a lot of this was new space. You'll see the difference between this and the NQ is this one kind of came up and immediately started to get pushed back down. The NQ is basing. It was putting up a little bit of a resistance to the downside, okay? Now, this one stopped in kind of that same pattern we talked about. This is the ascending candles here. I would say on shorts on this one, I'd probably be looking for price to come back in this range, right? Somewhere over here. I mean, again, price has been there. Use this wick to determine where this is to the downside. But if we continue pushing, I would use a kind of downward size target on this one down here, approximately at 30, 40, 30, 39, somewhere around that range is where I think this one could eventually kind of push its way down to. So for me right now, that's kind of, again, we're sitting in the middle of the zone. I'm looking for, sells and buys on the downside. Looking at the Dow. So the Dow, yeah, we got so close. And again, this is one of those things that offers a lot of frustration sometimes. It pulls up and it's a level that you had marked off. We had this zone marked off. I like this zone for a short. I was hoping to get up there. I was really excited when it pushed up, and then it turned right before the zone. It got front run to the downside. Great move. Great big spike to the downside. Yeah, just missed it. For the downside on this one, I'd probably use this zone as well. Kind of the same idea. This one is a little bit further. You guys see this little peak here. It looks very similar to this one on the S&P. This is just over in the Dow right now, kind of pushing down. If there was no buyers there, price would have continued to push lower. So kind of the same idea, downside target if we start to roll over and flip again, approximately down here at 25,533 is where we push my downside target. Now, we are sitting in the middle. If you guys hear me talk about where we are on the curve, obviously high on the curve, low on the curve, we're kind of in no man's land. And again, you could drop this down to lower time frame and look for some type of reversal confirmation. Again, this would not have been a horrible area to short from. You guys can see this was a drop, a pullback, and then boom, it crashed. And there would have been your 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio. It actually just banked off of it. Okay. It looks like it wants to flip, but again, that's where the area came from. And again, that's dropping down the lower time frames. Maybe I wouldn't take that one again. That's about 80-90% of the way through the zone. There may not be that much up there. What I may do is actually look for a confirmation of a break below this 26,167. Okay, getting a red, green, and then a red formation closing below this kind of bottom peak could be the trigger. And again, that should give us a little bit better of an idea of where a risk level will be. You'll see that basing level. Use that basing level to take it short back down here at what, 25.8. What is it? 25.820 around there would be kind of where the target would be. 25.820. Yeah, right in that area would be our targets to the downside. All right. Again, you guys can find this on the 5-minute Dow chart. On the 15, you guys can see the wick over wick. On the 30-minute, you can't see it as much. You can see that the zone was here on the 30. But again, on the 15, you can kind of see the wick over wick there. All right. And then the 5-minute, you can see the actual green. All right. All right. So that's the 3 indices. Let's dive across because I was really, really excited about that one. So again, you can see this gigantic movement to the downside. So this one, and again, here's that same, the reason I kind of went over that pattern, that formation, again, here's the descending wicks to the downside, is because look what we have right there. Okay, that's where this peak actually came in hours ago, right? Hours ago. That kicked in at about 12 o'clock last night, early this morning. And you can see it's kind of pushed over. And again, when it popped here at about 8 o'clock this morning, it went into a similar pattern, right? Here on the 30-minute, you can kind of see that level of basing that it popped into. That zone is, in my eyes, still a valid entry if price is able to kind of rally its way back up again. And again, it does look like it's trying. 69.74 later in the week, not today, maybe tomorrow with Powell speaking. This could be an interesting short. And again, make sure that you guys are matching your 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio to make sure it has enough room to run to the downside. You can do the same thing like that. Okay. And again, we don't know what the price action is going to look like up to that area. We can't see it yet. I can't tell in the future where and how the candles are going to paint. But when it does come back up, again, if this, then that, 69.74, 69.75-ish range is an area where we're potentially looking to get short. Bottom side, this is an interesting area down here. Again, it's untested. It didn't make it all the way back. We got a bit of room to run to it. It's about 96 pips away. So it is kind of an entire day's worth of movement. Because we had such a big downward spike, right now there's obviously near-term longs going into this one. It went a little bit through the bottom side. It is pushing back up again, but I do believe if we can get a turn on this one, especially on the lower time frames, you're kind of seeing it start to slow down here. This one I think will continue to roll over as well. You guys can see it here on the 5 minutes. Really starting to have a hard time in that retrace, which tends to kind of roll over and continue to push back to the downside. So I'm going to put this down here as a potential, a target for any of your shorts. 67.90 would be an area where I could see kind of a boost off of. So make sure your shorts are there, but keep those on your radar. Aussie yen. Okay, so Aussie yen, I've had the sell zone up here for a while. 75.40 has been a good spot. We just had a very, very hard time touching it. I'll remove it now just kind of get it off there, but keep that one on your screen, on your radar. This one as well, we missed the retest into it. Again, there was an area that we could have gotten short here right before the news came out this morning. It got front run, and then obviously Powell took it much, much lower. Take that pop off. Let's see, on the 30-minute, I don't know that I would use that to the downside. Here's an area that I'm going to keep track of as well. This area here around 74.50. Again, I did kind of drug it close. This was an interesting pop. It went into an area of sideways movement, and then you can see that we had wick, 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 wick. That same formation that I talked about before this large explosion in price to the downside. That tends to be a pretty good area. It may take a while. Again, it's getting the afternoon. Prices will slow down a little bit. Going into tomorrow, this may give us some some movement. Again, it could be tonight with Aussie news. It could be tomorrow as well. But that could be kind of a smaller time frame zone. An example being with Powell speaking at 12 tomorrow. If price for some reason the overnight it goes around, but if we can be up at 74.50 tomorrow before Powell speaks, that could give us what we need to kind of shoot back to the downside. Okay. So I'm not saying that's exactly where it's going to be, but again, keep this one on your radar for tomorrow. again, I'm an if this then that type trader. If price is in that range before Powell speaks, look for Powell to potentially have the ability to kind of force us back to the downside. Again, this is what his response was today. He comes up and it rallies back again. Again, we could see, again, lightning strike twice in the same position at 74.49. Okay, 74.50 basically is where it would be. All right. Now, Euro. This bad boy has just been running. So a couple of you guys know that we've set this trade up a few times. I went over it last week. I talked about the Harry Potter. I had a couple people ask questions about Harry Potter. I had a couple of people email me about what Harry Potter is. Guys, Harry Potter is just my nickname for a momentum breakout strategy. Everybody likes catchy names with it. This was the example of, this was like the perfect example, right? Here was a zone that I didn't necessarily want to take again for a long. And remember, I am an if this, then that trader. I'm going down to the 5 minutes so you guys can see what the pattern looks like. We had a zone formed here. Price had pushed out, pulled back, and then rallied higher, and then gapped back into that zone, but it pushed it to the very, very brink. So it's a zone that I've been watching, waiting for a break for a while. And we've mentioned this last week as well. There's been a couple of them like this, right? Been waiting for it to break, okay? Well, the first time it came back to the zone, it ended up taking a bounce and going higher, right? Here's the Harry Potter. So write this down if you guys aren't accustomed to it. What the Harry Potter trade is, it's whether a leveling or a breaking of a zone, a retesting back up, and that's using us, and we're using that zone as our risk level, and then it's pushing back to the downside. In this case, you can see price based in, it busted through, it came back up, it retested, and then bam, it went back down to its 1 to 3 target. Now it's gone much, much further since that time, but again, this is one of those kind of quick trades. It's one of the trades that a lot of times you use a 2-hour binary on. It tends to make the most sense to use that. Sometimes we get lucky and there is a knockout position there. But typically because price is punching through, you tend not to get them there as often. Okay, so a lot of times this is what I call spread or a binary. A lot of times it's a 2-hour binary or something on the smaller time frame. You can use it, with the 20 minutes as well, but I prefer to like this one, at least with the 2 hours, to give it enough room to run. This entire trade only took about 20 minutes for this one to run. And this was about a 15 pip mover. Again, when you're talking about 2-hour binaries and what the differentials are, they're obviously much, much smaller than the dailies, So again, that's why, you're focusing on those smaller time frames. But that's what the Harry Potter trade is. It doesn't matter. This could be on the 4-hour. I just dove down to the 5 minute to show you guys. Okay. And I wanted to leave that on there so I could give you guys some, bit of education, right? So since that time, let me take this off now just so we can kind of clear it. So it's a little bit, easier to read. Since that time, you guys can see that price on this one is absolutely collapsed. And what happened? This was retail sales. This was Powell. We've turned off this bottom level. I mean, literally, it turned right off the bottom. Okay. So what I'm looking for now is I'm looking for this to push up just a bit higher. Okay. So we can see on the 30 minute here. Let's go across. All right. You guys can see that there's a bit of a basing area right around kind of this area. Okay. This old area here. All right. Let's bring this across. I'll put it more or less there. Okay, so there's 2 areas I'm looking at. There is one. I'm also looking at this little area right here as another potential area to get short. Okay. With it being later in the day, obviously we're not going to have as much movement. Most of the movement in this pair happens in the European session and then obviously the early US session. Okay, it will start to slow down, but I'm looking for kind of where it's going to place itself. There's 2 areas above. It's got to break through that. They are both middle of the curve, meaning if I have a lot of sellers here and buyers here, this is considered in the middle. So it's a kind of a lower, lower probability trade, right? But there are 2 kind of small areas, and I do know that I'm in a type of setup position. So, we're kind of done for the day today, but they are potentials that I'm looking at for tomorrow. Of these 2, I'd probably say to be on the more conservative side, let's just focus on this top one. Taking something along these lines may not be horrible. And again, kind of see where this one is spaced out at. This could be something at the close of the day today that we look to get short in. We're about 50 pips away. So again, obviously, U.S. market, European traders are out. 50 pips moving from now till the end when the Nadex market closes could give us a potential short from that zone. And again, it is a drop. It is a sideways movement and a drop again. So nice setup, nice placement. I'm happy with that. Again, your targets need to obviously you need to get out below this bottom level. Again, this is going to be a big deal. Any targets below 120.48 are going to be in somewhat of a risk. We know because, again, the last time price hit here, it bounced right off of this zone and then popped. And now it's up about 40 pips. So Obviously, we had a turnaround. Buyers stepped in. You don't want to mess with buyers. You don't want to sell into buyers ever, okay? You want to be buying where buyers are. All right, so that's Euro yen. I like it a little bit better than the Aussie ones, but it's not necessarily my favorite at this point. So this one ended up, again, large movement based off of the yen. It went through our target zone. This was our target zone that we'd marked off last night. This one had a little bit of a retrace, so you could have gotten this one ahead of time as well. As far as the pound goes, again, this pair can absolutely move without a doubt. This one had kind of a short trade there. I'm looking for this one actually to go a bit higher. I really like this 4-hour zone. It's a little bit bigger of a zone. With everything going on with Brexit, this one can have some pretty violent moves. Tomorrow morning, we have CPI, which is kind of inflation-based. I'm not expecting it to be great, but again, it could really set the market off. If we can get any spike into this 136.98, or really 137 is kind of, again, bring it to the round number. That's a great place for shorting. Okay, again, we've dropped, we've kind of based along the top of it, we pushed back below, we came up, we based in it again, and then bam, we had a great period to the downside. This is kind of a big area. And again, we've talked about this before. If you know how to set yourself alerts, set yourself an alert kind of before that area. Around here about the 136.75 area. That would be a great time. It gives you about 25 pips to get back before you need to be looking for take shorts off that range. Like I said, I think there's some good potential setups short off of the 137 in the pound yen. To the downside, I'm not surprised it turned here. You guys can see that there's this level of basing right here. And again, it went right above. Actually, I need to mark it off. There's the actual level. You can see the red candles behind, and that's where the pop happened. So it kind of turned at the right area. It's kind of in the middle of the range right now, particularly in the 4-hour. And on the 1-hour right now, you guys can see that not much. I mean, this was the news this morning. This was Powell speaking again. Actually, this is a little bit before Powell. That's the 8 o'clock time frame. So that's the retail sales number. If you wanted to be a bit more aggressive, this one is probably not bad either. Know that, again, with the more aggressive entry, you're probably going to have a little bit, again, a higher chance of it kind of faltering on us, right? But you can see the response off that retail sales number as well as what Powell said. So, again, depending on if price is up there, again, we could have a similar response tomorrow when Powell speaks. Keep that in mind. But I'm kind of hoping that we push down and Powell gets to speak over here tomorrow is kind of what I'm hoping. All right. That would be my preferable. If I got to choose between the two, if I could say, hey, listen, go up or go down, I would much rather like it go down in the next 24 hours. And again, give us Powell right here. Give me Powell right here. Let him talk and let him suck the strength out of the yen and give us a bounce to the top side. I think we are probably due off of that level. All right. Looking at pound dollar. So pound dollar also had kind of a similar setup. Again, here was an area that we saw movement. It had a nice push away, came back up and retested. And that came in, this is also the retail sales number. This had a huge push to the downside. Okay, this one had about 115 pips. The ATR on the daily right now for the pound dollar is about 130. So great movement. This one actually busted a few different knockout brackets to the downside. Unfortunately, where the knockout's printed right now, that zone is not really the best for a knockout bracket. So if price does get back up into there, it's an okay zone. It did push pretty deep. I typically like when it just, brushes along the edge, but that zone's approximately 126.68. Unfortunately, you're going to lose 2 knockouts in the process, and the next one is a bit too high on that one. So you need to wait for it to go a bit higher up in the curve. Downwise, if this one does continue to push down, gives us a little bit of a dollar strength kicking in the overnight. We do have a knockout bracket down here, the 124.64 base. I had Nadex up a second ago. Where the heck did I put it? Yeah, let's do it this way. I'll bring it up again. Let me see. That is knockout number. Oh, hold on. I brought up notices. This one down here is what I'm trying to grab for you guys. Obviously, this will get broken on the way. Let's see. Here we go. On the pound. What did I say? 124.64. That is knockout number 6. Okay, knockout number 6 on this one. Does give us a knockout entry, but know that it can go just a bit deeper and still turn out of that area, okay? So this could be one of those ones that if coincides with what happens with news, or there's a spike due to news into that level, and it does not break this knockout, you can get probably a pretty cheap entry on this one to take it to the top side. And what we'll do, we'll put the stop loss in for you, in kind of one step, all right? So that's kind of looking for top and bottom here. Euro pound has been a little bit disappointing. So I've kept this level marked off, and again, hit here, assumed that it would break. It based again, it did break, and now it has pulled back up into that zone. So in this pair, it's kind of a Harry Potter, but it's kind of a strange one. It's one that you need to be a little bit more aggressive on. Like I said, had this one set up, assuming that that's what would happen, but man, it just ran away, did not give us that pullback. And I wanted to see if it would hold one more time, and it did. So for in kind of my opinion, there is a potential short in this one right now, depending on, again, what asset you're going to use. It's not a very large zone. You're only talking about a 6-pip zone, so it's very, very tiny risk. Matching that risk, again, in some type of a short is what matters. Because it's already 12:30 in the afternoon Eastern, we only have a few hours left. Binaries are getting a little bit weird, and you're going to have to take on more risk, unfortunately, in this position to be able to get something that's, a weekly or something tomorrow morning. That's kind of my concern. The profit on this one, again, the 1 to 3 is only about 18. The 1 to 5 is about 30. Again, using a larger duration binary or one of the call spreads for something longer is unfortunately going to push that, I believe, in my eyes, a bit too far. Okay, this is not a knockout-based pair, so it's not one of those ones that's going to be very in touch with where current price is. And like I said, any of the dailies or anything longer, the spread differential is going to be 20-something pips. So if this was earlier in the morning, or if you had this type of setup, at the European Open, where I'm expecting, larger movement, this would be one of those situations where you go after one of the 2-hour binaries. Unfortunately for Nadex right now, because it's late in the day, neither the euro or the pound is trading anymore. I feel like this one is going to run out of steam for us in the Nadex market. So it's there, it's short. Again, I would not use this zone again. If anything, look for a break above, and then we can look for a retest and kind of a bounce from this same zone. Again, the top of that zone is it's kind of capping out at 89.50. All right. But I think at this point, this one is probably over for Nadex. Eurodollar. So Eurodollar, you can see again on the hourly, what do we have here? We had PAL going absolutely crazy, hammering us to the downside, right? Hammering us to the downside. It turned in an area that was okay. We blew up a couple, knockouts on this one as well to the downside. I mean, this is a pretty big move from when PAL started speaking, really from the retail sales number down. It's an 82 pip drop in about 2 hours. So that's pretty big. This move started, though, at the European Open. So I know that it's not the easiest to trade the European Open. Trust me, as a currency trader, it's something you got to train your body for. But when people talk about trading opportunities, if you could wake up and trade one opportunity a day, look at this. This is where it hit. Again, the zone formed, it basically started forming last night, but kind of came across. This triggered at about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning and moved 110 pips to the downside. Okay. If you can get one big trade a day, does that change things? Yeah, in my eyes, it does for a lot of people. Okay. If you guys don't keep up with it, the Eurodollar, right, on the daily, right, it has a spread differential of 20 pips. So if this moved 110, right, let's just round it up. It's 100 pips. There's a 20 pip strike differential in the daily contract, the daily binaries. It moved 5 strike prices to the downside. There's amazing opportunity in this, okay? Amazing opportunity. Now, where touchback is broken, yeah, there was obviously a bunch of knockouts broken to the downside. You guys can see I've had to adjust these a few times. This one had to come in, this one had to come in, and now we're kind of stuck in the middle. So right now, there's not a ton great. This 112.93, it's unfortunately, there's a little bit of a hiccup right here. This is a little bit of an aggressive short. This knockout will get, it'll get touched before we can actually get in there. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Nothing really matches up. Look at this one, a bigger picture. You guys can see that it dropped right into the hourly. Again, there was the 4 hour. There was a bit of a retracement. You could have drawn it here on the, here, I should do the overlay so you guys can see it. You guys can see here was the entire zone. I would have marked it down to this level right here. And you guys can see where this one kind of turned and rotated off of. So, a lot of this is also picking, kind of using supply and demand to pick your profit targets. This would have been a profit target off of the short this morning. So a lot of people say, well, how would I know it was going to move 5? Do you know for sure? No, but again, you would expect it to kind of turn. We've seen buyers right here step into this one. If there was no buyers, it would have continued to push lower. Buyers confirm this zone here. And again, here's 1, here's 2, and then bam, here's the 3rd time it's hit off the same exact zone where buyers have stepped in the past. So again, definitely a profit target. I mean, since that profit target, obviously up 40. 40 is actually, so obviously the timing is a little bit off on this one, but you guys could have used like an 11 to 1 binary on this one, right? Because again, remember, this hit at right around 11 o'clock. The spread differential for 2 hours, 2-hour binaries on the euro dollar are 4 pips. So in this situation, based off of news, it's 40 pips that it's moved in basically the last 2 hours. That's 10 strike prices on a 2-hour binary based off of when we knew Powell was speaking or when we knew the retail sales number was speaking. So I'm trying to kind of piece it together. This could be another gold nugget for you guys today. Again, when you know when people are going to speak that are big market movers, 2-hour binaries are absolutely great. The fact that they are, the strike differential is, again, 4 pips, and this moved 40 pips in that same time frame. It moved 10 binary strike prices. There's a lot of opportunity. Again, this is why this is great, combining supply and demand with this. So I like the zone. It's been hit 3 times. Again, if you can get into something like this tomorrow when Powell speaks again, what I would say is I don't think we'll hit this bottom one tomorrow, but if we're able to rally back up and be at 113.36, or again, if price does not touch this again and we either spike or move into this level tomorrow, there could be a good 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. binary on this one tomorrow, 2 hours. Okay, so again, top side, bottom side, and again, we push higher. You know, the bottom ones I don't like as much, but I think top or the zone could be valid for tomorrow. Dollar CAD. Look at the spike, right? So dollar CAD's been interesting. This thing has been all over the place. It's had some crazy movement. Look at this. Spike up, spike down, spike up, spike down. An area that we'd mentioned last week was this area right here. Again, why this area? We saw price come up, go sideways, and then rocket ship off. Now, it didn't make it here. It formed another rally back up, put new highs in, pushed all the way back down, got front run off that same area, came back up. Again, front run here. I mean, I guess actually it hit the zone, but you guys can see. Dropped into the zone, turned, and then shot back up and is now retracing back to the downside. Dollar CAD has been offering great moves like this. You guys can see, where did it turn? Well, again, there's your basing level, right? It dropped, it based. You see that green candle, it pulled back up and then hammered down. So this one has been respecting zones. I don't know in the overnight if we're going to be able to hold both of these, but what I would do is kind of do the same thing for tomorrow and say, hey, listen, I know Powell speaking. Powell can bring, he can bring the pain or he can bring the pleasure. You want to make sure you're on the right side, right? These are 2 good zones that we've looked off of that, you know, we've seen. If we push down, this zone will be valid up top. If we hold and push back up again, this bottom zone will be good. Again, similar situation. The spread differential on the dollar CAD is a little bit more. Like right now, this one's still a little bit wider. What is it? We have a 20 pip differential, right? But in this 1 hour candle, we moved 108 pips. So we moved 5 strike prices, right? 5 strikes. Not as good as the euro. In my eyes, this one is still a little bit too wide on 2 hours. I think this one needs to be shrunk back as well. But again, Nadex stays on top of these things. They'll shrink it when they feel that it is time. But 20 is big when you can get 4 on the euro dollar, right? You guys feel me on that one. Also, and again, I know Nadex listens to all these presentations. Again, with this much movement, again, this is pretty moving back and forth. The daily ATR is 127. It's almost exactly what the pound dollar is, right? It's almost exactly what the pound dollar is, being 133, right? This is on, again, 127. I would love to have this one as a knockout. There's been absolutely this. Look at this movement. Great movement back and forth, chopping back and forth. Guys, right into support and say, we want dollar CAD knockouts. Great opportunity over here for this one, okay? You guys can see. So set this one up for tomorrow. Do the same exact thing. Look to see the early morning levels of basing with big movement off, and that'll be how to trade this one. Looking at the dollar yen. So the dollar yen is my disappointment trade of basically the month at this point. Look at this. Everything else is up, down. This is left and right. It's having a very, very hard time. It's staying within a little 40 pip range. This is literally the kangaroo market, right? The boing, 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 boing. Man, I just wanted to go a bit higher. Give me a good quality level to get, with our buy or sell out of. Stop consolidating, right? I still like this 107.72, but God, we just can't get up there. We've been so close. Look at this. Since the last time we were there was back on the 9th, it's like, just get me there, please. Get me there. And again, that was a 4-hour basing level. It just hasn't given it to us. It's been stuck inside of this range. So yeah, still holding firm for this 107.72. If we can get up there again for Powell tomorrow, I'd love to short out of that area. But yeah, the sideways market of the year award at this point. God, just move. It's just not moving. Now, dollar Swiss. There was an amazing little trade Sunday night into Monday morning. So I know a lot of you guys are futures traders. You see Forex and you're like, Forex is just not my deal. I get it. But if you can make money Sunday nights, there's a lot of opportunity. Okay. Here was a setup on Sunday night hitting, and look at this thing. It literally bounced off this one Sunday night at, actually, I guess Monday morning, but the trade was set up on Sunday night. Monday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, look at this, boom, 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 all the way down, waking up in the green. You guys have heard me say that before. Amazing opportunity even in the dollar Swiss. And I'm not a huge dollar Swiss fan, okay? But I wanted to leave this on and let you guys know, hey, listen, great trade opportunity, okay? There also is a knockout sitting right there at the very, very peak that did not get stopped out in this whole thing. So, yeah, there is some great opportunity. Now, normally the knockouts don't match up for that one. You can see that the rest of them really don't pair up, but this is one of those situations where it all matched. Okay, now where we are going with the dollar Swiss right now, again, this one doesn't move as much. I do like the reaction off of this level. Unfortunately, this is one you're going to have to end up taking with a binary. It doesn't move as much, but 95.36 is a good area where I do think there's some interesting shorts coming into that market. Areas where there are buyers, we are kind of in the middle. There was a bit of a zone here. I don't think I would take a long off of that one again, but this zone a bit lower down here at 94.45. It just happens to be where, again, there's a knockout, but unfortunately, the knockout's too close to the top of the zone. I would prefer it on the distal side. It's on the proximal, unfortunately. This had nice movement, right? It went up. It did spend a lot of time there, which I don't love, but I do like the pop, and I do like the fact that it hasn't been tested yet. So for me, top and bottom wise, I think, you got to focus on this 94.45 and then 95.36 as areas where we have buyers and sellers. But again, great opportunity. This was a runner of a total of about 170. Most likely, you probably got about 50 pips out of it. 50 pips going from Sunday night into Monday morning, absolutely a great trade. So again, if you guys are not expanding or not looking at currencies charts, do yourself a favor. Add a couple of them on there, look for them, even if you're just setting alerts, okay? Now, let's go over to gold and silver. What parameters do you determine to play knockouts? Let me answer this question real quick. We the people want, yeah, dollar cat and Aussie, yes, exactly. All right, Will, so if you're still here, you say, what parameters do I use to determine when to play knockouts? So one of the biggest benefits for me, knockout-wise, is proximity to price, okay? Knockouts, because they break out, right, and they take positions out and then get reprinted automatically, okay? They're in touch with price more than a binary is or really anything else, right? So a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm using supply and demand, and then what I'm focusing on is, like in this case, this is a perfect example right here. I'll zoom in for you, right? And hopefully, Will, you're still there to listen to this one. A knockout here, right? If price touches 95.45, the position get closed automatically, right? If it was a binary and goes above, you're fine. A knockout, if it hits, you're out. Okay, so if this is the risk I'm willing to take and I have a knockout on the top side, I'm okay and I'm cool taking it, right? In a situation like this, where if this green level is my level of risk that I'm willing to take, but the knockout is on the very, very top side, it doesn't qualify for me for a knockout. Why? Because price could come down, come to the middle of this green box. I've been taken out of my knockout bracket, and price turns and rallies off the area like my planning happened. So I like knockouts when there's an acceptable risk. When I'm near the ceiling or the floor, with a little bit of variance. Again, there's going to be obviously the market kind of bouncing back and forth, but I need to make sure it's well within my zone. Now, if it's slightly on the outside, like say the knockout, say this green zone right here was my area where I was looking for buyers, right? Now, forget this knockout. Say that this is where the knockout price is. Am I okay with taking a knockout that the knockout is on the other side of the level? Well, what I'll do is I'll throw my 3-to-1 risk to reward tool on here, and I'll say, okay, does price have the ability to move at least 1 to 3 before I run into an opposing zone? And if the answer is yes, I'm okay taking that knockout. But if the knockout is too far, say the knockout was down here and I have to stretch the risk and it's like, wow, that's way too far, I think price is going to turn, it disqualifies the knockout in my eyes for me. Okay? So again, it has to make sense. If it's in the zone, if this orange line is my knockout and I'm in here, I got to make that call, right? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If it's just on the other side, most times yes. If it's in the upper reaches of this one or like this one is, then the answer is no for me. I don't take them. Also, time of day matters a lot of times for me as well. And again, I don't want to ramble too long. I got 10 more minutes to cover 3 assets. I like them too because at nighttime, they tend to be closer to the floor or ceiling. I like call spreads a lot because they have that kind of non-stop outable feature, right? I love that. The one thing I don't like about knockouts is it automatically takes me out, right? I like call spreads because they don't have that feature, but they don't get reprinted. So they tend not to be as in touch with price. Nighttime, I tend to find a lot of knockout brackets. As things are moving from the Australian markets, right? There's a lot of movement that happens in the overnight. They tend to be closer, right? I can get more floor and more ceiling based trades. Call spreads are great, but not ideal, right? Not ideal. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. And Ernest, absolutely. We want dollar CAD and Aussie dollar knockouts. All right. All right. So let me go across to gold. Gold has also been kind of wishy-washy. So for my guys, I had a short that I was looking for here. So gold kind of hammered itself. And again, this is a 4-hour chart. On the hourly, you can see that this one is kind of going back and forth, right? Is Powell talking about more stimulus money? Is he talking about inflation? Is he talking about the markets going higher? He's been talking about budgets going crazy. I don't believe the gold market knows exactly what Powell is saying. Okay. I do believe tomorrow when Powell gets questioned and kind of interviewed by the House, I do feel that stimulus will come back in. Okay. How are you going to bring the economy back? Right. I do feel that the S word is going to kind of happen. Stimulus directly is to basically stimulus means printing money. I do think we will get more of a pop. So I'm kind of looking for shorts up top. I was hoping today that we'd be able to drive down and take price below this level. Okay. Now here, I'll put it back on the 4 hours so you can see a little bit better. This level, right? This is that hidden thing. I've mentioned it before, wick over wick, right? It's a hidden zone on a lower time frame. It was tested once. It offered a buying opportunity here, but it pushed it to the little brink, right? The little brink of extinction. So what am I doing? At that point, I switch my thinking and I say, hey, this zone, there was buyers there. The buyers have been pushed to the brink. I don't think there's any buyers left. I want to wait for this to break now, and I'm going to use that same level as a sell. So what I'm looking for right now in this position, if price is able to break below 1704-ish, right? I'm looking for some type of a space below, a pullback to that level, and then I'm going to use that level between 1704 and 1708 as a sell area, okay? As a sell area. There are knockouts on this one. I haven't found that knockouts on gold tend to match as much for me, but there's options there. There's call spreads here. Obviously, there are binaries as well for gold, okay? The ideal situation is if price breaks through into this green area and then rallies back up, and then Powell starts to talk. Ideally, right? But I don't know if we're going to get that or not. It may take Powell to kind of punch this down. If he says something like, inflation is completely controlled, we're going to watch inflation closely and raise interest rates appropriately. That will ruin this one as well. So there's a couple different things that he could say. But if price spikes up to the 1747, again, I'm also looking for areas to short back to the downside. Now, silver, here's a setup that we had. Actually, this one just triggered and actually completed about an hour ago. This was a small zone. And again, this is that pattern. Let me take this off so it doesn't bounce back. Here is that pattern that I showed you guys in the very beginning, right? A wick lower, and a wick lower in a base punching through. It was tested. And what did you see right here? Price came up very, very fast due to news. It turned and then bam, retraced back down for a 1 to 3. Dropped from 1753 down to 1737. Okay. Now, doesn't seem like a lot of a move, but again, it's the same type of chart pattern, whether it's on a 30-minute, a 5-minute, an hour, 4-hour, it's all the same. Okay. All the same. But again, there's that pattern that I talked about. Silver has been a bit more reactive. Okay. So silver over the last couple of days, again, it kind of punched through, has come back up again. I'm looking for levels of sellers up in this area a bit higher. I do think that this zone will probably break. But if we get up into that 1770 range, again, it's interesting. If you're not accustomed to silver, it is a little bit different of an animal. Obviously, we can trade this one. There is not a knockout for this one. There's only gold. But if you look over at the commodity binaries, you have silver there as well as the commodity call spreads. So there's a couple different ways that you can play it, but it is definitely a different animal, guys, if you're not accustomed to trading it. Okay. Now, last but not least, let me pull up let me pull up oil. Okay. So oil has had a couple different bounce backs this week. Now this chart's a little bit busy. Now these blue lines are the knockout brackets. Okay, so obviously, let's see, did 39 hold in this knockout? Let me check it. For crude, yes, so 39 held. Okay, so I wanted to make sure we updated these. So we have the 39, we have a 37 on here right now. Let's put this at 37. And we also have a 42 up top right there. All right, so these dotted lines are the knockouts, okay? So based off of last week, okay, here's another one of those Harry Potter trades, guys. I don't think I showed this to you last week. This is on a 30-minute, so it probably happened after our presentation. We talked about a level of basing, right? But here's that situation where we drove really, really deep into the zone. I was looking for a break of the zone. And again, here's the break right here in this green candle. Make this a little bit bigger for you guys to see it. Here's the break. Here's the entry. There's the completion to 1 to 3. Okay. Same thing down here. Here's another level. Okay. It ended up bouncing off this lower level. Now, this level had not been hit yet. This was an untested level. So it's not a Harry Potter trade setup. It hit, it came back up and went all the way through. Now, this zone is hit again and actually triggered twice. Because this zone is hit so many times, what I will probably do, and again, if price is able to get back down that low to the $34 range, what I will probably do is, this ended up stopping out at break even. I will probably try to set up something along these lines, okay? A Harry Potter trade to the downside using 34.70 and 34.20 as kind of my entry. So it'll be this piece right here is what I'll be looking for over on this side, okay? And again, that's farther. Actually, let me put this one right here just so you guys can see it. Let me change this to solid. Let's change it to a red. There we go. That's good. And then we'll put another one right up there so you guys are able to see it. All right. All right. Right now, let's see. Let me go up to an hourly to get a little bit better of a view here. Price obviously spiked today and then kind of turn and flip back to the downside. There is a zone there right around $39. Okay. Ideally, it's not my favorite of an area. I mean, we had this big spike up, which is a nice zone. It dropped, it based, and then it dropped again, okay? So on a 30-minute chart, you guys can see it's right here, right? You got this zone right here. It's not the cleanest of zones, right? We can move it all the way across. It may be worth one more shot out of that zone. Let me see. You guys can see that knockout made it by the skin of its teeth. Yeah, I have to do it off of that. With oil inventory tomorrow. With oil inventory tomorrow, this is an interesting position, and here's why. Okay, there is a knockout there. The knockout is on the bottom third. Like I said, this one barely survived. Okay, if it was higher, if it was up here, William, because you asked, I'd be into it. Okay, we may have to see where this one continues to go. If we can continue to push higher and we can rally into this yellow zone, that would be where you want to take this one short. Okay. Most likely, though, use a 2-hour binary, get something a little bit farther out of the money. If you guys remember, last week we missed inventory. We actually had an increase in surplus. Again, if we see that again, we could definitely have a big push to the downside. We kind of need this to rally up. After this large spike in price, I do think that's a potential. All right. Unfortunately, this one's a little bit muddled. God, I wish this one was here. If that was there, I would love that knockout. Unfortunately, being right there at 39, it's a little bit off. So, okay, guys, what I would do tomorrow, see where price is, if we're in this basing level or if we're in, you know what, I'll take this guy off. Let's clean this up a little bit now. If we're in a level like this, oops, not that one, sorry. Either of these two is probably okay. So looking around 38.90 or 36. Again, if we can move up or down before tomorrow's oil inventory report at 10:30, be looking to take a 2-hour binary, something short here, something long down at this level. All right, that's the best we got for oil right now. I was hoping this would go and crash through a little bit more. I'd like to get down to this one, but I just don't know if we're going to make it. All right. All right, guys, so that brings us to the very, very end. So again, thank you guys so much for coming today. If you guys have questions, you're more than welcome to message me at any time. If not, log in next week, June 23rd. I can't believe we're already approaching the back end of June, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll catch you guys next week. Take care.